operations within its website management to try to deal with this problem and remedy it to the degree that can going forward. What I'm told they're going to try to do is seek out and block these online petition activities, so what people receive, they sign up for on a one-to-one basis. There cannot be blanket movements of online petitions into the White House website, because at this hour, that's what the White House is saying is probably behind many of these emails. I will say this. I have talked to people, and you may have also, Julie, who say they are not members of any organization and have not been advocating, or through the membership in any group, advocating on any particular part of the health care debate or anything else, and yet still receive these emails. They might be at home, if they're hearing this, still a bit curious about this, but that's the White House statement. 4 days since this issue arose, and for the better part of 2 days, this statement I just read being scrubbed by the White House, approved by the White House counsel's office, and by the White House spokesman, Robert Gibbs.
Major, I just want to go back to one of the sentences in the quote of the spokesperson's statement here. If an individual received the email because someone else or a group signed them up or forwarded the email, we hope they were not too inconvenienced. What, at this point, responsibility is the White House taking, if any at all, to the fact that David Axelrod is the person who allegedly sent these unsolicited emails out, that his name is on a lot of these emails that are being sent to people without them signing up to anything?
Well, of course, this is not coming from David Axelrod's personal email account at the White House. David Axelrod, for folks who may not be aware, is a senior advisor to the president. He is his closest political advisor, has been for years. The email that was sent under David Axelrod's name on Thursday came from a messages link at the White House. One of the reasons for that, Julie, is if it had come from David Axelrod's actual email address at the White House, it would have had to have been archived for all time under the Presidential Records Act. This messages@whitehouse.gov email address may not fall under that kind of archiving protection, because the law may not cover what you would regard as generic blanket email addresses rather than the specific White House staffer email address. What the White House says is they're going to continue to communicate with folks on policy matters through David Axelrod and others, but if people don't want it, take some steps at their end. But the White House is also saying it's going to take steps on its end to prevent what many people, though this network has not called it, but some on the outside have called a spamming operation. I don't have any proof one way or the other if it's a spamming operation. Clearly, the White House is saying if it looks like it, it isn't because of what it is doing, but what third-party groups, either on the right or the left, are doing to its website.
Major Garrett, thank you very much. For more on this, I'm joined now by Brad Blakeman, former Deputy Assistant to President George W. Bush. Brad, thank you so much for talking to us. This late-breaking news coming in now, where the White House is essentially issuing a response to Major's questions earlier this week. Your reaction, first of all, to the White House, as Major just said, wanted to get to the bottom of this, find out exactly how it is that these emails got out there in the first place. Do you feel they're taking responsibility?
They're not. No, I think they're passing the buck to third parties. They knew, Julie, quite well where these emails were going and how many they were sent out. People should come forward and let Fox News and others know whether they were victims of this spam email by David Axelrod and those who work at the White House. It's totally inappropriate, and as Major Garrett suggests, that this is a way also of getting around the White House Records Act. Totally inappropriate behavior by the White House, and quite frankly, I know one person who sent me an email. I wrote about it in Politico this weekend, unsolicited. They never contacted the White House, and they're offended by receiving unsolicited spam email from a high White House official.
Now, this is video right now that we're showing where basically Major Garrett started this whole thing and called out Gibbs for these emails that were being sent out and this supposed list. And then, of course, Gibbs brought up the word list, and that's what sort of sparked this whole thing. One question that Major had and really never got answered was, how does the White House enforce or monitor adherence to its no spam policy? And I guess if this were the Bush administration, let's say, what kind of backlash do you think we'd be facing here? Getting personal emails from the White House, unsolicited?
Well, unsolicited emails. If Karl Rove, who held the same position as David Axelrod in the White House, they've done this on presidential policy that they feel people were offended by or not supporting, Karl Rove would have been asked for his resignation by Democrats. There would have been calls for an investigation, especially when as Major suggests, that this is a way of getting around the White House Records Act and keeping emails archived. Totally unacceptable behavior, and I think we got to keep the pressure on the White House to do more explaining. Certainly the explanation that was given today through the White House counsel's office and the press office is unacceptable.
Major, I don't think that all those hundreds of people that received these unsolicited emails find this statement acceptable. The president lately has been as if he's recampaigning for presidency these days. He's all over the country trying to sell us on health care reform. Tomorrow he's going to be at the VFW convention at 2 o'clock speaking there. Do you think that the American public, especially those who received all these emails, need to hear from the president? Will the president address this, or will he just let his White House staff do it?
I doubt it very much. I doubt it very much, Julie. He's going to be on that VFW speech and getting back to Washington working on health care. One thing I just want to address, I don't know the law on the Presidential Record Act well enough to know that if this generic messages@whitehouse.gov is covered or not. All I do know for a fact is that if it had come from David Axelrod's White House email address, it would have to be. I'm not suggesting anything is either being circumvented or not. I just don't know whether or not. I think it might be a gray area in the Presidential Records Act. I just want to make that clear before we sign off tonight.
All right, Major Garrett, thank you very, very much. Brad Blakeman on the phone, thank you as well. We appreciate both of you coming on. The White House late at this hour responding to those unsolicited emails received by many of you watching right now. Well, there's your explanation. Much, much more on this story, though, on Foxnews.com. Now you know the news this Sunday, August 16th, 2000.